Good evening once again, everyone, and welcome to our live Doctor and Call program for this evening, the 18th day of July 2023. Well, it's good to be back. It's our first program in, 2 weeks? Yes, it's good to be back after, what was supposed to be some rest. Didn't work out that way, but nevertheless, we're here, and we are going to continue what we do every Tuesday evening. Doctor and Call, Dr. Nixon is with us as always, and this evening we have two very special guests. They're from the Healthy Caribbean Coalition, and we have a very, very, very important topic to discuss this evening, and I definitely want you to pay very close attention because we expect you to have some questions that you'd like to ask. All right, so please stay with us. We welcome our viewers on GBN Television 711, and of course our friends on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, and you listeners on K105 FM. So Doc, good evening and welcome back after 2 weeks. Too long? All right, well,
I almost missed you, but there was a week when I was in Barbados with our guest tonight, looking at NCDs, how we're going to plan for the next 2 years, but also looking at the challenges that childhood obesity is presenting for the Caribbean and the potential that childhood obesity has for our state of health in the Caribbean. So tonight, like you said, we have a very important program. We have these two guests from Healthy Caribbean Coalition. They're going to tell us what Healthy Caribbean Coalition is. Our guest tonight, Ms. Maisha Hutton, who is the Executive Director of Healthy Caribbean Coalition, and Ms. Sheena Warner, who is the social media person and the communication officer. And they've both been doing wonderful jobs, really, really, really great jobs, keeping civil society organizations involved in the prevention and making plans and executing plans, implementing plans for the control and prevention of chronic diseases. So we're going to let them talk about that, but this is what they are. It is in a nutshell. And I'm going to speak also of one very important initiative that's going to be happening, especially in Grenada for us, because we do have challenges. We've seen the numbers, we've seen childhood obesity increase, and we have to take even stricter measures than the ones that have been taken. And of course, anything we do for success has to be done in partnerships with the whole of society. So
yes,
I want to welcome them to GBN, to this program tonight. I'm really, really happy to have them because I know the people out there need information, and these are the people who can tell us what's been happening, how we can get ahead, and as we work together in Grenada to get childhood obesity down to its very minimum.
Yes, indeed. So, ladies, Miss Hutton and Miss Edwards, we thank you very much for being here. In fact, if I recall, this program should have happened a while back, but of course, sometimes things do happen. But as our old folks say, no bad breeze ever blows. All right, so maybe now is just the perfect time. So it's a pleasure to have you all, and we're looking forward to a very, very interesting discussion this evening. But before we get into a lot of the information, share with us a little bit about the Healthy Caribbean Coalition, what it is, what do you do? Tell us a bit about that. So I must yes, okay.
Susie, thank you so much for having us. I'll give you a quick overview and then let Sheena provide some more details. It's a real pleasure to be here. The Healthy Caribbean Coalition is an alliance of civil society organizations. So your cancer organizations, your diabetes, your heart and stroke. And really the core of what we're trying to do is to prevent and control NCDs and to help governments to do their jobs. You heard Dr. Nixon talk about whole of society. Back in 2007, when our heads of government, the first in the globe ever, decided that NCDs, this group of chronic diseases, were a major issue that needed to be tackled, and they were not only a health issue but a development issue. They said that we needed all of society, government, private sector, and civil society, and that was really the birth of the Healthy Caribbean Coalition, to support the civil society's contribution to really reducing the incidence and prevalence, the level of chronic disease we have in our society. We all know, as Dr. Nixon said, the incredible burden of NCDs, of cancer, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, I'm going to say them again, and also the risk factors, tobacco use, alcohol use, unhealthy diets, which lead to childhood obesity, and physical inactivity. And 8 out of 10 Caribbean people die from these diseases. And that's, when we talk about premature death, in fact, then, the numbers are even more shocking, and that's dying before, you really are supposed to die. So there's a real toll on the productivity, and I think we all know that. So really at its core, Healthy Caribbean Coalition is trying to help governments and civil society to really come together and prevent and control this group of diseases.
Okay. Sheena, you want to come in here with some additional information?
Yeah, so just add to what Maisha has shared already with respect to NCDs, because we are hearing, people not necessarily would know what the term NCD stands for. So as Maisha highlighted, those diabetes, cancers, heart disease, you hear a lot about strokes or pressure, as you would hear at the community level. So those are the kinds of diseases, an umbrella of diseases really, that the Healthy Caribbean Coalition has been galvanizing support, on the ground, as well as educating, campaigning, for support with respect to prevention measures, with respect to management and care, with, all of those chronic non-communicable diseases, as was termed before, but we do refer to them as non-communicable diseases. So it's an educational process. What we have been doing is trying to do that through with the major support of our CSOs on the ground in various countries across the Caribbean, including Grenada. And we work closely really with the Grenada Cancer Society, as well as the Chronic Non-Communicable Diseases Commission.
Right. So you have been getting support from civil society, this is really wonderful. What about the next level? Civil society is just one part of it, because that message needs to filter through to who we call the regular person on the street, and this is where we need that message to go. So aside from that, what sort of response have you been getting from the general public? And also, have you been getting the support that you require from heads of governments in the Caribbean?
I can go here. Maisha can also chime in. But for us, that education component. So there are several components to communication, as you would expect. So the education part of it, through those CSOs who have been working on the ground, doing the community level work. We've been, educating through that, that network. We've also been doing quite a lot on social media. Of recent, several campaigns, I would say, especially over the COVID years, a number of digital campaigns where we've been reaching people in several localities across Grenada. You'll say we usually target about 14 CARICOM countries, but especially in Grenada, we've had good support. And by that, we measure based on the comments and so, the feedback that we get via Facebook, Twitter, in those spaces. And it's relatively good support. People understand the issues. Once you mention NCDs and you go into, the diabetes, and so people definitely understand the issues, but it's always marrying the two. As Maisha mentioned before as well, we work, it's a multifactorial, multi-sectoral approach. So we also work with the governments. We're working with other civil society organizations, to raise awareness, but as well as to generate or galvanize support and some action in that area.
All right. Maisha, you want to come in here?
Sure. To complement what Sheena was saying about at the government level, there are WHO and PAHO and CARFA have a series of recommended interventions and best buys that they call them. And these are the policies or the actions that they recommend the governments implement to tackle these chronic diseases and the risk factors that are associated with them. And we know that we've started to see some traction with governments because we've started to see movement on these policies, whether we're talking about regulating diets through taxation on around sugar-sweetened beverages or the broader category of unhealthy foods, whether we're talking about policies in schools which regulate the availability of sugar-sweetened beverages, whether we're talking about smoke-free spaces to prevent, for tobacco smoke, and now expanding that to electronic cigarettes for, vaping for young people, and regulating marketing of alcoholic products. Policies, Dr. Nixon talking about policies. We had her on a panel with us back in Barbados at the meeting that she mentioned, where we were talking about cancer control and the cancer kind of landscape in the region. So, our government's implementing national cancer control plans. Are they making sure that cancer medicines are accessible and affordable to the population? So those, when we start to see the movement in those types of policies galvanized by what Sheena was saying, the public demanding and pushing for them, and that's when we're going to start seeing movement. And we've started to see the kind of movement that we want to see.
Right, and of course that should start reflecting in the numbers, because I'm looking at some numbers here, and they're not numbers that you want to share. Definitely, we seeing 13% of all deaths in Grenada heart disease between 2009 and 2019. We seeing increases in NCDs. So clearly, the work has to be done. It's important, and I was saying earlier that this program should have happened before, but here we are in the peak of the carnival season in most of some of the islands. St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Grenada, Antigua, Barbados, and these are periods when people really don't pay attention to what they consume. The sweet, the grease, all of these things. So I think it is very, very important. And Doc, I want to bring you in here, to make some comments on what have been said so far.
So every time we talk about NCDs, I like to explain to the population what a non-communicable chronic disease is. So, because I think it sets the space to understand why we're doing what we're doing. A chronic disease, a non-communicable one, doesn't have an origin often, mostly, because some do, but mostly don't have an origin where there's a germ involved. Some cancers, yes, that's what I said generally. It's a disease that's going to last you over 3 to 6 months. It's beyond that. It's there. Usually, there's no vaccine to prevent it, usually. Also, it's related to lifestyle, and it's controlled and can be prevented by applying the appropriate lifestyle. And if you don't do that, it progresses to worse and worse. It can also bring death, but it also can change the quality of life that you enjoy or that you experience. Okay? So we talk about things like hypertension, diabetes, the complications of hypertension and diabetes, strokes, heart attacks, kidney failure. We talk about loss of vision. We talk about those kind of illnesses that we can actually prevent if we live healthy lifestyles. What we're seeing, however, is the challenge that we have with our children. And the biggest risk factor these days being obesity. And we're seeing an increase, meaning that you're over 35%. You're 35% over your expected body weight and height, right? So what you should weigh and measure as a child, you're 35% or more over that. And that's just childhood obesity. We're not even getting to the adult obesity. And why is it bothersome? It's bothersome because childhood obesity tends to extend into adult obesity. I'm sorry about the night noise. Childhood obesity tends to extend into adult obesity. And we know that adult obesity is one. Obesity in general is probably the biggest risk factor for a lot of those diseases that we're so concerned about. So if we've seen our children already having challenges with managing their weight, and we know it's because of lifestyles, what they consume, the level of activity, etc. We need to take stock very early and change behaviors very early. We know that if you're a child who's obese, you're likely to be an adult who's obese. We already know that obese people are at greater risk. We have to take stock. So we have two tiers. One, that we have to control the challenges we already have, and then we have to prevent the potential challenges. And when we see our children overweight go from increase 2.0% in 2 years or 2.9% in 2 years, it is an alarm. Okay, we have not done a lot of measures during COVID, right? And the mortality rates that you have, talking about 13%, that was pre-COVID. In COVID, there was less follow-up for chronic disease. People died for different reasons. And we know that chronic disease like hypertension and diabetes and other things contributed significantly to the mortality, to the death that occurred as a result of COVID infection. So we know COVID is always going to be around. It is going to be every major disease and infectious disease to stick around, and you have this little endemic population. It's there, and it will come up if the conditions arise. You talked about us having carnival. You think we want to have what we had in 2020? No, we don't. In 2020, I'd like to remind Grenadian people, 200 people in Grenada died because of COVID infection in 6 weeks. Unprecedented in our history. We're not even at war, right? So we have to teach people how to control the disease and avoid complicating other things that they might meet in a way. We have to also make sure that the things that we have control over, like COVID, right, by behavior, by washing our hands, by staying out of large groups, etc., are prevented. But that's secondary. You spoke about carnival coming. We tend to get a little heat on the stick. We forget that the behaviors we should exhibit. Who drinks and drinks far too much, who stops taking their medication. And we have deaths increasing around this time when we have large gatherings, okay? Because people decide, I'm drinking, I'm not taking no diabetes medication, can't drink rum and take pressure pills, and they forget. And even people whose disease might manifest itself in that season for the first time, they're just tired, okay? But as an adult, tonight I think we want to look mostly at the children and the challenges and the programs that will be implemented and that have been implemented to take care of childhood obesity in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Matin, and the Caribbean at large. But what is happening for us and why we need to make sure that we do something, why we need to ensure that we don't have failures in this, and how we're going to prevent this, how we're going to go as a population, how we're going to include all of society in this program to prevent childhood obesity and ultimately ensure that, before that, ensure that we have proper lifestyles and do whatever is necessary. And then, yes, would there be pushbacks? Yeah, people will be, I can't do this, or this is hard to do, or manufacturers will have their challenges. But we have to do what is right for our population and for our population because we have all the figures to show what causes what.
So I want to go back to our guest and just refer them to one of the taxes that our government here implemented in March of this year, the sweetened beverage tax, I think it was, with an effort to reduce on the consumption of sweetened beverages. When it actually happened, when the announcement was made, there was a lot of discussion. There was a lot of discussion about it, and some people felt it was a little drastic, it was too immediate, abrupt, and people needed time and all of that.
And because they also taxed sugar as a commodity. Right. Remember that.
So, but one of the things as well is that one of the arguments was that some people don't think it will help, in that if people want their sweet, they're going to get the sweet. It doesn't matter what it costs. I would like to get the views, from our guests on that. And also another very important thing, even some of the politicians in opposition came out to speak about, you just can't do that and things like that. How do we separate these things? Because if we're talking here, people over profit, there must be some sort of demarcation. There must be some separation when it comes to people's health. What is most important important aside from, the political side of things?
So I'm going to answer, and then I'll let Sheena jump in, because Sheena's been watching the social media and she sees a lot of the comments that you kind of the comments you're referring to. But I think when we think about these policies, we always have to go back to evidence, right? Why are we implementing these policies? We're implementing them because they're evidence-based and they're recommended by institutions that have done the research to show that these policies work. So in this specific example, we're talking about taxation, and there's global evidence and there's regional evidence that shows when you increase the price of these products, and we've seen it with alcohol, we've seen it with tobacco, and now we're seeing it with SSBs, and it's borne out by evidence. When we increase the price by a certain amount, the public is sensitive to the price, and purchases do decrease, and they tend to replace those purchases with healthier options like water, when there's also a commensurate increase in availability of those healthy options. The trick with the SSB tax is it must be at a certain level. If it does not reach 20% or higher, you're not going to achieve that level of that price sensitivity in the population, and you won't achieve the regulatory objective or the objective of the tax, which is to reduce consumption. So I think it's very important that the public is clear on what the objective of the policy is, and that's one of the issues we had in Barbados. There was no early on sensitization about the first time we introduced the tax in 2015, so the public really wasn't sure what was happening. This time there was sensitization. It was very clear from the Prime Minister that this was a tax that was really aimed at reducing consumption of these drinks, which we know lead to increased diet, which then lead to obesity, as Dr. Nixon has said, and then on to the whole cascade of NCDs. So the key here is public education. So you sensitize the public. The tax has to come in at the right rate as guided by evidence. And then you have that evidence to respond to those who are to the naysayers. And then you continue with your public education campaign throughout the implementation of the tax, so that you're constantly responding to the queries of the public. I know Sheena has had to personally, she's seen kind of the feedback and the responses in the public in Barbados when the tax was increased. So she can talk a bit about that and how the Barbadian situation, they responded to that, to some of the queries or the opposition from the tax from various sectors.
Yes, I can jump in here. With respect to the tax, so there are several policies, and we really want to implement a cadre of policies. Ideally, they should work hand in hand. For Grenada, we had the implementation of the tax, which we were very happy, to see. In Barbados, when that was done, initially there was an implementation of a 10% tax. Then that would have been raised to the 20%, which is the recommendation, a minimum of 20%, to actually see some kind of change. So that would have occurred in Barbados, and there was quite a lot of talk on the ground, and in the social media spaces, on all of the television programs, call-in programs, because people ideally wanted to find out more about it. They wanted to see what the benefit, would be to a population the size of Barbados, similarly size of Grenada, how it could really benefit the individual. So we were able to see, and again, through several responding via various traditional and non-traditional media, we were able to identify, how the tax works. We were able to show that, in Barbados, we had a reduction in terms of the consumption patterns, consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages in Barbados, and an increase in the consumption of water, which was that was the key thing. And we then saw, Grenada implemented the tax, and we were hoping to see a similar plight there, where persons, there's an increase in the water consumption, which is what we want, and less, of the sugary beverages. So, and that may include, to some extent, those, you have to be mindful the amount of sugar you're putting in your drinks. But those store-bought products that you may purchase, they're full of sugar. And most people, when we do, the education at the ground level, when we go into the communities, they're quite alarmed at the amount of teaspoons of sugar that you would find in some of our local drinks, as well as those that are imported and manufactured across the region.
I wanted to add to that point that Sheena just made. We had a workshop the other day, and it's also, this idea of giving the public information. And it was a graph of the level of sugar consumption in the Caribbean versus the global. And the amount of grams consumed per day by children globally was 200 grams on average. In the Caribbean, it was 800 grams a day. I mean, that is staggering. And so to see that visual and the comparison, and that 200 grams is shocking the global community into action. So we have a real issue with overconsumption of sugary beverages. And that's the other piece of evidence there, too. That's why you tax those beverages in particular, because they tend to be the major source of sugar in our diets.
Okay. Doc, anything before because I want to move on and ask about some other...
No, there was a little bit, another evidence. So the children in Mexico, and I'm sure Maisha and so will hold me up to this. Mexican children, they also taxed sugar-sweetened beverages in Mexico, and there was a significant decrease in the consumption. But they also have measured as a significant decrease in obesity. Think about it. Mexico's problem is getting decent water to drink. So a lot of them drink sugar-sweetened beverages as their fluid. That's what they consume. Like how we drink water. However, the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages decreased. So did they've been doing this for quite a few years, and they have determined that their children have shown significant decrease in the level of obesity, which was very, very, very visible. So that's the evidence, and it's next door. It'd be good to see Barbados. I know Jamaica probably had some challenges, but they also probably soon come out with their numbers and how the changes is occurring.
Okay, wonderful. Let's take a very short break and we'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us, folks. Don't go anywhere.
Do you have muscular pain that no one can find a solution for? Are you tired of taking meds for joint and other pains? Hills and Valley Medicare Center on Grenville Street, St. George is here to help you heal. We will help you map a path to your full recovery. Visit us Monday to Saturday for a consultation with our on-site doctor, physiotherapist, and massage team. You will be glad you did. Our Medicare Center, a proud member of the Hills and Valley group of companies. On the hilltop or in the valley, we are with you wherever life takes you. Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Your health is our business.
It's the 4th edition of Hubbard's Live Free for 1 year promotion. Cuatro Punto Cero. It's unbelievably amazing. You can win free fuel, free drinks, cash prizes, free property and vehicular insurance, free cable, TV and internet, free electricity, free coke, free water, free cooking gas, free paint supplies, free passes to Sunshine Promotion events for 2023, free groceries, all for 1 whole year. And every winner receives a lunch package. Be sure to fill out the entry forms and enter it into the marked entry boxes at all Hubbard's departments and at participating outlets. Promotion runs from April 1st to September 30th, 2023. Draws will be held every 2 weeks. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the SMC's Crescendo to Grenada's Panorama 2023. And you see pan business, that is we business.
My name is Andrea Isdale. I am 21 years old and I am from St. Paul's. For me, playing pan was like second nature because like any other community-based organization, when you grow up seeing your parents do something, it's natural for you to want to do it. So it wasn't a choice, it wasn't a decision. It was just a natural thing that I knew that I actually had to do. So it was no choice. At the pan yard we have on Thursdays is our in-house pan yard liming day. So we have different things. So tonight is our cricket night. We have games night. We try to bring in persons to speak, to have motivational nights, to get players more inspired inspired and wanting to play the pan more and to have a greater love for the pan. So that's some of the things that we do. It's definitely okay to come and see us practice. We always put on a show, whether it's practice or performance or a gig. Our days for practice are Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m.
Welcome back, everyone. It's and this evening we have two very special guests with us from the Healthy Caribbean Coalition, Mr. Maisha Hutton and Mrs. Sheena Edwards, and we're talking people over profit. As it relates to some of the health policies that governments are putting in place to help address this situation. Now, of course, trade is a big thing. Business is big. Profit is very important to business people. How can government ensure that some of these businesses that are protecting the profits do not find ways to circumvent or to get around the policies that governments are putting in place to ensure that things work the way it's supposed to, as it relates to the health of the people? Sheena?
For me, I'll start with, there's a quote
right.
That I really love, and it goes as, what is good for health is good for business. For us, we've recently completed actually a campaign, People Over Profits, where we've basically highlighted one, how interference in the health policy space can affect the implementation of health policies. I think we're really all in this together in that, we're one region. We have identified that these NCDs, as we've been speaking about, diabetes, heart disease, are really, we are at an urgent stage where I think all of us need to work together. And through this campaign, we've identified, some of the necessary actions that are required by the industry, food and beverage industry, manufacturing industry in that space, things that they can do to combat these diseases. Again, we all are in this together. We've been advocating on the ground, even in Grenada, for front of package warning labeling, and specifically the octagonal warning label. In that, we've seen, and there are studies, that have been done globally, but specifically in the Caribbean. We've had a study done by PAHO in Jamaica, which has identified the octagonal warning label as the label that we in the Caribbean would identify easily and correctly each and every time. That would help us choose those foods that have less sugar, less salt. So what you would see is an octagon, it's a black octagon on the front of packaged products that will identify that these products are high in, all of these nutrients. And we've always heard the argument, even from the industry space, where, they said, these are key nutrients. Yes, they are key nutrients, but we have a problem on our hands where we are consuming too much of these key nutrients. So it's an excessive consumption of the sugars, the fats, the salts. And really we can get those numbers, especially those sugars and the fats, and that's saturated fats, trans fats. We really have no tolerance really for the trans fats. But we really need to do a lot more, and we can do that, together in this space. And it's through those policy measures that we would hope, to galvanize support again, to have those implemented across the region.
Okay, great. Actually, I was going to ask about the front-end living, but you went ahead. Maisha, anything more you'd like to add as it relates to that, and how effective you think this can be? Because, there's also a little saying that in the Caribbean we don't like to read. We look at pictures. So, how effective you think this would be?
Yeah, that's precisely why this is so effective. This octagonal warning label is what we call rights compliant. It is an equity-based policy because it's equitable. It allows those who have low literacy. When we go back to Dr. Nixon's comment about childhood obesity, this was found to be very effective in countries that have implemented it in terms of informing children, so children can understand the foods that they should avoid. It's very much a very fair and equitable policy. It also is something that we call an enabling policy in the sense that once you have this stamp on foods, governments very readily now know which are those foods they need to regulate, whether it's these are the foods we should tax, these are the foods which should not be allowed in schools, these are the foods which should not be marketed to children. So it's we're seeing this challenge across the Caribbean and countries which have implemented policies in schools where they're trying to get these types of foods out of schools, and they don't know which are the foods. They're having to read the label, as you've said, and you need a degree sometimes to read this label. So this is a really, really powerful policy that we hope can get implemented. We've seen some significant pushback from some actors in the industry. But as Sheena said, I think there's a realization that we need to work together. And we've started to see some of those food and beverage actors coming forward and indicating their support, almost as if they know it's coming. And they collectively realize the importance of having, a healthy workforce. So an unhealthy workforce is just as problematic for them in terms of absenteeism and costs. And it's the long-term vision, right? Whether we're talking about the short-term cost to these companies versus the long-term losses when we have in the future those 40% kids who are overweight and obese who are now adults and now developing diabetes early, developing cancer early, blood pressure high early. So I think it's, thinking about the costs and balancing where you're going to make that investment in prevention or later on in treatment.
Okay, yes, indeed, very important. Are there any other campaigns that you have in addition, of course, the two major ones, government policies, this front of package labeling, two very key ones. Anything else you have in the pipeline that you plan on rolling out or implementing or pushing for that can be of added help in this campaign?
So we've actually done this for a number of campaigns. The last one would have been our Act on Facts campaign, and that would have spoken to, again, removal of the same ultra-processed foods, which are, again, those processed packaged foods out of schools. So those, what we would term the fast foods, serving it within the school environment, and the sugary beverages. We've had some movement in Grenada where, the school policies, which are key as well, to protect children within that environment. We've been advocating for that for some time, and that we've definitely seen some traction there across the region, where there are a number of healthy school policies that have been put in place. Barbados being one of the most recent who have implemented the policy. But Grenada has done that, and Dr. Nixon will add. But definitely we've been advocating for that, and we've seen good change in that area. Again, we expect to see the benefits, within years to come. Children are drinking more water. They're moving as well. So yes, that's another very, very big campaign that we've recently had and implemented.
Okay, lovely. Maisha, anything you want to add here?
Yeah, just one last thing. You asked about kind of specific actions, and I wanted to refer to the recent SIDS meeting that was held in Barbados, in which all of our small island developing states ministers of health came together. And the outcome of that was the 2023 Bridgetown Declaration on NCDs and Mental Health. And one of the big areas that was referred to by SIDS ministers of health as a major barrier to NCD prevention and control were this idea of commercial determinants of health. And it goes back to your question about how do we address this. Sometimes the reality is that some of these actors do interfere in this policy making because it does undermine their profits. And I wanted to just respond on some of the specific actions that ministers of health endorsed in that document. The first is developing conflict of interest policies to protect policy-making spaces from vested interests or undue influence. You can't have an actor who benefits from the sale of ultra-processed foods, for example, or fast foods or junk food, making a decision about whether or not that food is going to be regulated, right? Because that's really it's not in their best interest. So you're going to have some bias in that decision making. The second one is access to information legislation so that there's a degree of transparency and accountability in governments making decisions. And those are some very important measures that we can take, and they're just part of, good governance. And they also serve to ensure that when you have a public health decision that's being made, that the outcome prioritizes public health and not the profits of companies.
Okay, wonderful. Well, ladies, I know that you are not able to stay with us for the entire duration of the program, but nevertheless, we've been very happy to have you. So let me give you both maybe a minute or two just to make any closing remarks you may want to before you leave us.
Yeah, Maisha can go first.
Sure. Just to say, I think agree with Dr. Nixon. We really need to look towards, childhood obesity prevention. This is our future, and children have a right to healthy environments. One thing we didn't touch on, which is really important, and I think this is my take-home message to everyone, is that we are conceiving children, we are raising children, and we as adults are growing up in environments which have designed to make us overeat, to make us drink alcohol, to make us. So this idea of you choosing and your behavior, you're really up against a tough environment when these products are marketed to you. They are cheaper than anything else. They're widely available. They are tasty. They are manufactured, so you want to eat more and you don't get full. So these policies are really important to flip that around and to change these environments from health harming environments, or we call them obesogenic, they create obesity, to health supporting environments where the easy choice is the healthy choice. Healthy food is cheap, it's available, it's everywhere, and it's marketed as opposed to the unhealthy foods which we see marketed and are cheap and everywhere.
Yes, and I will add to Maisha. Yeah, you want to go ahead? Yeah, no, just add quickly, Maisha has touched on a very, very key point in terms of the marketing. This is the area that I think most of us don't see. Yes, we see it, but we still don't see. And we've definitely seen an increase in the marketing of these unhealthy foods towards children in various spaces, including online. That has been addressed at all levels of recent, whether it is in the area of mental health, how it affects children. And those are things that I think, as adults, as those who are really responsible for our children, because they're all our children, these are things that we need to consider. Direct marketing to children in any environment is harmful in several ways, and children of today are dealing with quite a lot, and we can work in that area, I think, to combat again, NCDs, childhood obesity being a precursor of NCDs. And the other thing is the front of package warning labeling. For sure, for me, that is one of the very important policies that I think will make a direct change and a quick change, because you can easily identify a product as you go shopping. I mean, even professionals, we go into the supermarket, we have no time to read the label at the back. And that's just the reality. It's a fast-paced world, and policies like these will help us. It will help us to make those choices that we want to make for ourselves and our children. I will leave to that.
Okay.
I want want to make a few points just before Maisha and.
But okay, so
and
Doc,
Sheena leave.
right,
No,
Doc,
I want to make this point before they leave.
no, yeah, I know, but apparently someone is trying to get on. I have a feeling they may want to have a question, so let's just take that quickly and see who is with us.
Okay.
Doctor and call. Good evening. Hello. Good evening, caller.
Hello?
Yes, good evening, caller. Are you hearing us?
Problem here, isn't it?
Hello, are you hearing us, Doc? Caller? Okay, we seem to be having a little issue with the telephone.
Yeah.
So, Doc, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So a couple of points. One, and I want us to remember this is an all of society participating event, okay? In order for us to succeed, we all have to come together. So tonight, I know their grandparents are on, their parents, their cousins, their children, and people who run tuck shops. Everybody's there. And I think we have to remember for our children's success, all of us have to come together, especially parents, okay? We have to come together as a coalition in the interest of the well-being and the longevity of our children. Remember that. This is not meant to mash up people's business or anything. It's really meant for us to have a healthy, productive, long-living population. I heard the changes today that are recommended for the NIS. If people are dying at 40, there's no need to bring up NIS, have you to work until 65. Trust me. But we all want to live beyond 65 and live very well. It means that we're going to have to make changes, okay? Second of all, one of the things that has happened in Grenadian schools that kind of need to be revisited is the whole school nutrition policy. And the ladies that haven't raised it is something that we're looking together as a Caribbean, having healthy school nutrition policies and school nutrition policies that are implemented in the interest of the well-being of our children in school. Our children spend a lot of time, they eat a lot. They consume a lot of potentially harmful goods. If we can ensure that they can consume and exercise during those hours, those most active 8 hours of their day, we are already ahead of the team. One of the challenges we have in relation to unhealthy products generally that reach our children is the fact that sometimes, and it does cause severe conflict of interest. The people who have money, who sponsor a lot of events that our children go to, don't necessarily promote the best. We talked about advertisement. Sometimes advertisement is just passive because these organizations actually provide funding for whatever because they have money, and that's okay, right? And I remember when we were doing salt, when we did the salt thing, one of the supermarket managers said, this can be implemented. We probably can't take salt of everything, but we can in our supermarkets have an area where we promote low salt products. That's a start. So sometimes when manufacturers feel insecure, or in our case, we don't have manufacturers as much, except like the bread people and the people who sell food on the side of the road or in the small restaurants. When they have a challenge, they're going to have to make it up. We're going to have to encourage them to make it better. It happened. The Canadians dropped the salt content in their food by coming together, by working together with Public Health Canada. The people in, I think is Uruguay, Chile, they worked with the health department to decrease sugar and salt in foods, and it works for the population. So it's not a matter of breaking down people's business. It's a matter of encouraging people to make their business better. We don't manufacture, we distribute. So eventually, when it's out there, you're only going to be able to buy better foods. When we understand that we can provide foods with better nutritional capacity, you're already ahead of the game. So this is really opportunities for manufacturers and distributors to seek out that which is better for our children. This is not putting them out of business. This is really making people practice their craft, encouraging people to practice their craft and their business at a better level.
Okay, yes indeed. So, Mrs. Edwards and Ms. Hutton, we thank you very much. Let's see if we can get that call. We seem to be having some issues with our telephone. Let's try. Doctor and call, good evening.
Yes, good evening, citizen Augustine, and to you, Dr. Nixon, and to guests. I am pumped out of my little hiatus to ask this curious question. We focus a great deal on sweetened beverages and sweetened foods and so on. And we focus on quote-unquote sugar as we know it. But there is a material, a product called aspartame, which is, according to reports, 200 times sweeter than our regular sugar. And it appears in many of the things that we buy from abroad. Question: has the coalition looked at this product in any way and what it is in effect doing to us? Given too that World Health Organization recently categorized it as a potential causant of cancer. I'd like to get your views on that, please. Thank you and have a nice evening.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much. Yes.
I think Maisha should speak on that and where the coalition is in relation to aspartame. Will you, Maisha?
Sure, no problem. And thank you, caller. That's an excellent question. And what we've seen actually is where we've seen this regulation in the Caribbean, these types of regulations, we've seen manufacturers switching out sugar and replacing it with non-nutritive sweeteners such as aspartame. And then there's some of the natural non-nutritive sweeteners such as stevia. And as you rightly said, there's long been a lack of evidence around the healthfulness of these class of products. But recently the WHO came out prior to the announcement of the cancer link, indicating that these were not to be used, in particular for children. There's a bunch of guidance on that, so which can be shared. But the recent notice, as you said, really warns it as related to cancer. So very important. We've advocated for some time for these to be regulated, in particular for children, because of the point you mentioned about sweet tasteness. They have a sweet profile much higher than sugar, and therefore, even when children are consuming beverages that do not have sugar but have sweeteners, they still have this taste for sweetness. So once they leave school, they're going to go look for the soft drink and the other sweet products. And as a result of the advocacy of HCC and partners across the region, we've worked with many governments to ensure that their policies which address sugar-sweetened beverages also include beverages that are sweetened with artificial sweeteners. So that it prevents the companies from switching them out, right? From taking the sugar and then using the artificial sweetener. And in fact, heard Sheena just talked so well about the warning labels. In some countries, in Mexico in particular, they've included a warning label about the sweeteners, in particular as a danger for children. So I think it's a very important question that you've raised, and it's important for the public to understand this so that when they see these sweeteners in drinks, they know that they should not be consuming them, and in particular, children should not be.
And I think that now that we in the Caribbean are looking at implementing these policies to prevent sweetened, and I'm going to say sweetened beverages, it is very important that it comes in now, so that we can include that part, that the World Health Organization is so adamant against us including artificial sweeteners like aspartame, and there are probably like 5 or 6 others that they've mentioned that they included in the drinks. But people probably already thinking of switching out, so it's a good thing that it's coming now.
They've done that in Jamaica, actually. Jamaica did not include some of these sweeteners in their policy or their restrictions, and they're now having to deal with companies that have switched the sugar and replaced it with these non-nutritive sweeteners like aspartame and stevia, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful indeed. So we thank Ms. Hutton and of course Ms. Edwards for the time you spent with us. Of course, by no means this is your last. We will be calling you again because we want to keep abreast with how the work is going and the progress, as it's been made. And of course, we want you to continue to put the pressure on our governments to ensure that the policies are enforced so we can have a healthier Caribbean. So thank you very much, and I look forward to having you on again very soon. Yes?
Thank you. We hope to see you soon as well. Grenada will be voting hopefully soon on whether or not you support that front of package warning label. So maybe we can come back then and discuss why Grenada's vote should be in support.
Oh, definitely. We'd love to accommodate you on that one. All the best.
Thank you.
We take a short break, folks, and we'll be right back. Yes.
muscular pain that no one can find a solution for? Are you tired of taking meds for joint and other pains? Hills and Valley Medicare Center on Grenville Street, St. George is here to help you heal. We will help you map a path to your full recovery. Visit us Monday to Saturday for a consultation with our on-site doctor, physiotherapist, and massage team. You will be glad you did. Our Medicare Center, a proud member of the Hills and Valley group of companies. On the hilltop or in the valley, we are with you wherever life takes you. Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Your health is our business.
Have you heard about the new Soft Weave bathroom tissue with total hygiene? As hygiene and safety have taken center stage, our bathroom tissue is now manufactured with 3 different technologies to offer the best protection for you and your family. UVC light technology for a safe and effective disinfection process, eliminating 99.9% of microorganisms. Also, production at high temperatures, killing all types of germs and bacteria. And it's pH controlled with delicate fibers to prevent irritation for even sensitive skin. Soft Weave Total Hygiene Bathroom Tissue, available in supermarkets and shops island-wide. Visit Soft Weave Caribbean Facebook or Instagram pages for more information.
Welcome back, everyone, and of course, again, special thanks to Miss Sheena Warner Edwards and Miss Maisha Hutton for their contribution to this evening's program. Very, very, very important indeed, and of course, the work being done in an effort to ensure that we can live healthier lives. But Doc, a lot has been said, a lot of valuable information. I think it's important now that we take this thing to a different level. The foundation is laid as it relates to what has to be done. How do we now get our people to understand the importance of paying attention to that kind of information? So, as you said earlier, very importantly, the quality of our lives is not compromised.
The truth is, we have a lot of little things that are going on. However, I think a good point would be this campaign that's going to start. People over profits.
Yes.
Because it's very, very important. Because, Godfrey, and you hear me say that dead people don't buy nothing. Okay? Dead people do not consume. Unwell people do not consume as much. If our people are dying in their 40s and 50s, they don't have money to spend because they're too sick. Okay? We want to ensure that we have a population that can enjoy life. Our manufacturers and our distributors are going to have to stay in business by ensuring that they cater to the well-being of our population. once the People Over Profit campaign comes on, I think it will share information with the people on the ground, with Grenadian people who deserve to have a good quality of life, with Grenadian children, because I think our children need to be very involved in this campaign because they can understand. Children tell their mother what to buy in the supermarket. Children tell their mothers what to buy, what they want. If you can train our children to getting that which is healthy, we're good.
Yeah, definitely.
If we can provide water for our children in school, they will drink it when there are no sodas. If we can change formulation to ensure that our children do not overconsume sweetener, well, no sweeteners, because we're not going to allow sweeteners. Sweeteners are not going to be allowed in drinks. That's where we're going, right? But if we can, and not just in drinks, in other things, they put it in ice cream, they put it in other drinks on the shelf, put it in lollipop, in ice lolly and those things, right? And even at home, that we can encourage people not to do this. This again is going to be an all of society involved activity, right? All of us have to participate and make sure that us as Grenadians live better. That's what we're going to have to do. It's our responsibility. It's we are the people, and we are the people that we are going to protect. So we're not fighting manufacturers and distributors. They're saying, look, I will spend money if you give me the right thing. We also have to be, we can't do it alone. We have to have health in all policies. I've spoken about this before, and it's something that keeps coming up. Every single institution of government, let's say ministries, because I think that must ensure that they have the health of the people included in their policies. So if your infrastructure, you need to make sure you have safe roads, community spaces where people can go and exercise, community gyms where people can go and exercise. Okay, Ministry of Labor has to ensure that that employers, whether it's government, whether it's SGU, I don't care who it is, ensure that people can exercise, that there's time, there's space for them, that they encourage, that community to be active, so that people are not sitting in front of the computer for 8 hours. And I've done it in my office, sit down and see patients, and then you stand on the computer and realize, shoot, it's 5 o'clock. I've been sitting here from 12 o'clock on my computer. There must be certain plans out of them that our children must drive around and play, especially children who are doing common entrance, well, the CPA. Why are they sitting in class for hours and hours and hours for some wonderful exam? Or high school kids, why are they not participating in physical education? Look, when I went to university, okay, when I was in medical school, physical education was obligatory in the first 2 years. You had to do 2 hours of physical education every week as a university student. That was encouraging lifestyle. I learned to do judo and all, and I've been school champion.
Very interesting.
Yes, interesting. No, for me it was interesting. And I'm one who has emotion problems, right? So try to imagine me doing somersaults. I still can't do somersaults, but I learned how to overcome that. The truth is, I learned something new. I was active, right? And I developed a skill. The truth is, we have to ensure that all youth find fun in the sports activity. They can create activities on themselves. Don't fool them. Don't fool yourself. They know how to do this. They know how to do this. We just need to involve them. This should not be a top seat down. It must be a society that...
Yes, a collaborative effort, yes.
Parents must participate. When is the last time you took a child outside and say, Miss Mary Brown, girl, go around the ring and shake on and wind your waist, and who stole the cookie from the cookie jar? You go play who stole the cookie from the cookie jar, and you I know you have big people talk about that, but we're not going there. You laugh, you breathe, you ease stress, okay? You move, you dance, you interact with people. You better mentally and physically, just like playing a cat and game and laughing and going on. It costs you nothing. Have you done it when you have an adult funding? No, and those are things we enjoyed in school. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we having liquor dance? Why don't we have in a room, in a ministry, in an office, lunchtime, you do group dances like electric slide and stuff. Why don't we just have a TV running during 2 hours of lunch? You go for your lunch and you go inside and dance for 15 minutes. There are lots of creative ways. Why don't we have groups who walk around the building? Why aren't our women going outside and praying and walking and teaching their children how we can pray and walk? There are lots of simple, inexpensive things. We don't have to have Nike shoes. We don't have to be able to have a gym fee. Go and do it. But it has to come from all of society. Parents are going to have to realize what their responsibilities are. We can do this, and we will, because our life depends on it.
Yes.
And of course, we expect the Ministry of Finance to say, hey, we got to have a budget for wellness. The Ministry is supposed to say, okay, in our communities, let's make sure that our community centers, every community, every 6 miles, we have somewhere that people can go out and walk. Okay? Agriculture. How are we encouraging people to plant a garden? If you can park a car, wherever you can park a car, you can plant a garden there. Okay? We go and we concrete all around the houses early, right? We don't need to concrete. We get a little space and put up 4 beds. Lettuce, tomato, carrot. You understand? Plant a mango tree. In Jamaica, I've seen it over and over. People buy what we call a housing solution. A 2-bedroom house with a living and dining and a kitchen. Small house, right? 800 square foot is so much. And you get a lot of land and you can build. You can increase on the house. And all the friends I've had who have bought a house, a housing solution, because usually it's not really enough for a growing family. Young people buy it and it's all right. It's okay. It's a good thing to do. But they plant a breadfruit tree, a coconut tree, an avocado tree, a lime tree, and an ackee tree. People have that in their backyard. That's a start. Right? So Ministry of Agriculture is going to have to talk about, can we start back 4-H in all schools so that kids can understand the value. My girlfriend in New York has a 4-year-old who I saw reaping her potatoes from a bucket that she planted. She's 4 years old. And she was dying to come home from where her parents took her for vacation to come and reap her potatoes. We have to create, and she wasn't wearing a glove, her little hands down in the dirt in the middle of New York. So we have those opportunities, and we have to encourage our children to understand that we can make our own healthy food. Right? And we can cook. Food and Nutrition Council has done a lot of work. They have done a lot of work with taking into school the school nutrition policy. Yes, we have to look at it again as things change and implement it globally in our schools so that people can come in through the back door and sell sodas and teacher come with bag of drinks for the kids to sell. All of us have to be participants in this because our lives really depend on it.
Indeed. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for this evening. We were talking earlier, and it's amazing how time goes by. But I just want to share a little bit of information with you before we go. All part of the People Over Profit campaign. And it says non-communicable diseases are the main causes of death in Grenada. Now, statistics show that heart disease is the main cause of death in Grenada. 13% of all deaths between 2009 and 2019. And Doc said earlier that was prior to COVID, right? Now, additionally, diabetes and chronic kidney disease rose. Let me say that again. Additionally, diabetes and chronic kidney disease rose by 11.6% and 32.4% respectively. Meaning, let me just break it here. So diabetes rose by 11.6% and chronic kidney disease, which can result from being diabetic, that rose by 32.4%. All right. Now, of course, considering that the government implemented a sweetened beverage tax in an effort to reduce consumption that contribute to the non-communicable disease incidence, this rate was increased from 15% to 20%, and that includes sweetened fruit and vegetable juices, popsicles, as we call pennacle and things like that, food preparations including syrups, so the mauby, the flavored or the colored, whichever, and the flavoring powder for making the beverages, soft drinks, malt beverages, and sweetened beverages containing cocoa. So folks, I want you to take that with you because it's very important. We come here week after week and we speak about these things. And I guess there are people who think, well, That's not important. But guess what? Couple years down the road, when something goes wrong and you go to you start feeling some pain or some uneasiness, and you visit Dr. Nixon at the Bruce Street Mall, and she does the examination and the diagnosis and says, Mr. John, you are diabetic. What is the feeling that goes through your mind? I'm sure it's a frightening one. It is. So here's we can prevent that. We can start doing what we are supposed to be doing now. That is, avoid all these sweetened beverages and sweetened foods. And I'm sure you've always heard Ms. Brown on the program saying that no one is saying that you cannot consume a little sweet. But the way we do it, it's not helping us. It's doing more harm than good. So we need to step up. We need to pay attention to all of these things, because sometimes it's until the reality actually hits home we realize that I've been doing this thing wrong all along. I knew I was doing it wrong. I was being irresponsible, and here I am today.
So one of the things that is even more impressive is the fact that we've been seeing younger and younger people. You talk we have diabetes. So you think, okay, I'm 40 years old and I develop sugar. I'm 50 years old, I have sugar. But we have children who are adolescents who are developing the type of diabetes that old people have.
Yes.
Type 2 diabetes, adult onset diabetes. It means that all that sugar kind of knock out our pancreas for 6, okay? Mm-hmm. Because the pancreas is being forced to provide all this insulin, become insulin resistant, and you have full-blown diabetes, right? That is what is fearful. That is what is very fearful. The other sweeteners, as Maisha said, are very and the caller correctly mentioned the potential for developing cancer. Mm-hmm. We don't need another chronic disease. We don't even have money to take care of the things we have now, right? Why are we putting ourselves at risk? Mm-hmm. When in truth and in fact, we don't have to. You can have an orange, a child can suck an orange. You want juice, drink water after. We can encourage our children to eat fresh fruits, right? We can encourage our children to drink water. Actually, I met a girl recently who only drinks water, because one of the things we also have to push for is the exclusive breastfeeding in our babies, that they understand, that they can appreciate a drink that doesn't have sugar but is highly nutritious, and it comes from the mother's mammary glands on her breasts. That's a possibility, right? So the kids don't get accustomed to drinking sugars, and we all think we have to put a little sugar in the child tea. Children who don't know sugar, don't worry about it.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
And the behaviors that occur in families are going to determine how children behave outside. I've seen kids whose families don't have sugar, and they go out and, no, I don't want a soda. No thanks, I have water. That's right. So it's a question of creating habits, and sometimes, and I think most times families, people who live in a household, whether you're family by extension, whether you're just people living in a household, are going to have to practice good collective behavior. So all of these behaviors go on, and children learn, teach, live what they learn. If we teach our children and practice it correctly, our children are going to be fine, and that's our responsibility to expect our children to be fine. We don't want to be burying our children because they develop diabetes from early, and by the time they're 40, their kidneys flash out.
That's right.
Okay, so sometimes they think, the beneficiary says, the health doctor said, right? All they don't know what they're saying. Yes, we do not rescind, because we have seen the numbers, and we are grieving. It is a state of grief in which the health sector is currently, with the overwhelming level of diseases that are preventable. That's one of the things I forgot to say in the beginning, that with good lifestyle, these chronic diseases are preventable.
Yes, indeed.
Totally preventable. Indeed. And so we have to figure out, what is the decision we're going to make? I know there are a lot of seniors on here today. I'm going to ask you to take your role in your family and start speak to your family about changing lifestyles. I know we like it sweet, and I know we like it salt. We're going to have to work on that, right? Currently, there's a lot of focus on the sugar sweetened beverages. In some jurisdictions, the tax actually goes into helping people, like raising campaigns against it, helping people who already have diseases to be able to deal with it, providing medications and stuff. we can't do this because all taxes have to go into our consolidated fund, right? That's just the law. But that can be changed. That can be changed. Countries that call it the sin tax, tobacco, sugar, and those things that you taxed. Part of the funds go into the tax, into the general tax, but there's a portion that remains so that people can get their medications and have treatments according to what challenges they have. Can we bring legislation? Yes. All of civil society can come together and ask that we deal with this.
Yeah.
That the government looks at how we can have some of that taxation go into taking care of our people. So guess what? I think as Grenadians we can do this. I think we should do this. I think we should have an obligation to come together as a nation and make sure that good things happen for us.
Yes, indeed. I'm looking forward to that. Well, Doc, that's all the time we have. Again, thanks to Miss Hutton and Miss Edwards. Doc, thank you so very much. It's good to be back.
And as usual, I want to remind people to learn one thing from tonight, at least, and implement it in your family.
Yes,
one thing.
indeed.
And put it into your family.
Indeed.
And soon, look out for the people over profit
campaign. Yes.
Campaign. It's going to come on stream soon, and you'll hear it. Because it's not about what companies make with the money they make from what they sell to us. It's about being able to make money but selling to us the things that we deserve.
Yes, indeed. So that's our program this evening, folks. Thank you very much for staying with us. It was indeed a pleasure. Of course, I'll be back with you tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening from 6 o'clock, of course, and we'll have our usual fun. So do take care. Do have a good night. All the best. Remember, folks, we are in the hurricane season, so it's important that you be prepared. I'm not saying anything's going to happen, but it's better to be prepared than to have to be running all over the place like a crazy person trying to find a solution. So prepare. Ensure also we're in the carnival season. Ensure if you're going out, your property, your homes are well protected so that you do not expose yourselves to any unnecessary risk. All right? So thank you very much.
In the carnival season, we're drinking. Make sure you don't drive. You're drinking. Don't drink so you can take your medications. It's rainy. Please boil your water. And there's still a lot of COVID and other infections out there. Please protect yourself.
Yes, indeed. So thank you very much, folks. Have a good night. All the best. I'll be with you tomorrow. Good night, then.
Night.
If there was ever a time to keep and stay healthy, it's now. We at Hills and Valley are here to help you take deliberate steps to maintain your health. We stayed